What if Voldemort felt remorse? Harry offers him the opportunity just before the final battle, and of course, Voldemort laughs in his face, but what if he did? What if he heeded Harry's warning and took him up on the offer? Hey, brother! Okay, so here's the situation. Harry and Voldemort are squaring off for the big moment. When Harry says, "Before you try to kill me, I'd advise you to think about what you've done. Think and try for some remorse, Riddle." And it throws Voldemort for a real loop. His pupils contract, his skin whitens even more somehow. He is absolutely horrified by such a prospect. But we were recently asked over on Through the Gryffindor, what if Voldemort had felt remorse? What if he'd lowered his wand and gone through with it? Would Harry just let him go? Would they throw him in Azkaban and let him live out his days there like they did for Grindelwald? I somehow doubt it. I don't really think Voldemort has any chance at all of leaving that room alive after all the atrocities he's committed, especially when he is surrounded on all sides by an entire army of people who have been affected by his misdeeds. Guess I'll just go, because when I open a little path there, I'll just scoot out. And operating here. Hold on. Sorry about that. And then there's the prophecy to consider. The whole
"one must die at the hands of the other, for neither can live while the other survives" of it all.
The Ring of Fire!
And yet, Harry offers him this moment anyway. So, what is to be gained and what may have happened if he accepted? Today, we find out. Okay, so the thing about Voldemort is that despite Harry's offer, he is just straight up incapable of this suggestion. I literally think he cannot feel remorse on any level. And I think Dumbledore puts it best when he's talking to Harry about the power of his mother's sacrifice in King's Cross. If he could only have understood the precise and terrible power of that sacrifice, he would not, perhaps, have dared to touch your blood. But then, if he had been able to understand, he could not be Lord Voldemort, and might never have murdered at all. It's a catch-22. If Voldemort had only taken a moment to understand the power of love or forgiveness or remorse, he might not have murdered. But at the same time, if he understood those things, he'd never have been there to murder anyone in the first place, so it wouldn't matter. And Harry, of course, already knows this, and yet he offers it to him anyway for a few good reasons. The first thing that probably comes to mind for most of you is the conversation that Harry, Ron, and Hermione have about Horcruxes back at the Burrow, and if it's possible to undo them or put your soul back together. "Isn't there a way of putting yourself back together?" Ron asked. "Yes," said Hermione with a hollow smile, "but it would be excruciatingly painful." "Why? How do you do it?" asked Harry. "Remorse. You've got to really feel what you've done. There's a footnote. Apparently the pain of it can destroy you. I can't see Voldemort attempting it somehow. Can you?" That passage feels like it exists specifically for Harry's offering later on. Like, give Voldemort a chance to do at least one single right thing. Let him repair his soul. That's what he's really saying, right? Oddly, I don't even think Voldemort is the only dark wizard this line ends up mattering for in Deathly Hallows. Again, back in King's Cross, Dumbledore has some interesting things to say about Grindelwald. "They say he showed remorse in later years alone in his cell at Ermengarde. I hope that it is true. I would like to think he did feel the horror and shame of what he had done. Perhaps that lie to Voldemort was his attempt to make amends, to prevent Voldemort from taking the Hallow." Yeah, he even almost phrases it the same way Hermione does. You've got to feel what you've done. I would like to think he did feel the horror and shame of what he'd done. And since Grindelwald is the other darkest wizard we know about, and Dumbledore was in love with him, and Dumbledore is especially fierce against the idea of Horcruxes to the point where he removes all the books in the library, one of which Hermione is actually reading all these facts from, it makes you wonder, did Grindelwald make a Horcrux too? And if so, what was it? Except that for sure it just would have been the Elder One, right? Like his most precious object, which would then make 2 of the 3 Hallows Horcruxes, and fittingly not the Invisibility Cloak, the most pure one owned by Harry and all of his ancestors. That sounds right. Like how 3 out of the 4 founders' objects ended up as Horcruxes. Y'all, we need to take a brief pause right now to give a huge thank you to today's sponsor, BetterHelp. Here's the long and short. Ben and I are both super active participants in therapy, and in a world that is increasingly full of different ways to improve wellness, whether it's ice baths or gratitude journals or screen detoxes, some of which I'll admit I'm also doing. You guys tried the saunas yet? Ugh. It's so nice.
Big summer blowout.
Therapy is the thing that lives at the center of our wellness journeys, and it's because it's an ongoing practice that can start to help inform decision-making every step of the way. And then that improved decision-making tends to lead towards better choices in health, finances, interpersonal relationships, and business. And you slowly start to understand what makes you tick, and that helps you run an overall more effective, happy life. Because I get it. Sometimes it feels like you're just in a dark room feeling around for what you need or looking for the doorknob so you can move on to the next thing. But working with a licensed therapist has been like having the lights turned on in that room. Like, why fumble around? You can go straight to the door. And the best part is that BetterHelp is convenient. You can join a session with a therapist with nothing more than the click of a button. And as the largest online therapy provider in the world, BetterHelp can provide access to mental health professionals with a diverse variety of expertise. Take it out with BetterHelp. Our viewers get 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/super. That is BetterHelp, HELP.com/super. Link is in the description down below. And now, back to the video. But plus the idea of Dumbledore carrying around a piece of Grindelwald's literal soul that whole time? Aw. And ew. Ah, but then wait, you're saying, shouldn't Grindelwald have not died when Voldemort killed him? Well, no, he definitely did die, but that's a good thing because it means that he did feel remorse in his later years because his soul was made right, and thus the Elder Wand was no longer a Horcrux. Which is then even better because it is the backfiring Elder Wand's allegiance to Harry that ends up killing Voldemort because he himself was not capable of feeling remorse. Man, that really fit together quite beautifully. And it brings us back to Voldemort. I mean, what a great what-if theory segue back to the point I was already making. I mean, that's what 10,000 hours looks like, people, right there. Anyway, the issue Voldemort is facing in this situation is that even if he did decide he wanted to try for some remorse, all the Horcruxes are gone. Neville just slashed the head off of the last one like 10 minutes ago, so now, even if he goes for it, there's nothing left to put back together. So what good is it, Harry? Like, why even offer? Well, for one, I mean, Harry's just like a really nice guy, you know? No, but for real, the eyes of the entire wizarding world are upon him here, and Harry knows he needs to set an example for the future. Show people that mercy must always be offered. But then also, on a less wide, sweeping, noble scale, Harry just pities Voldemort here. And that's something that I think started way back when Harry first learned the truth about Voldemort's mother. She wouldn't even stay alive for her son? Dumbledore raised his eyebrows. Could you possibly be feeling sorry for Lord Voldemort? Dumbledore is raising his eyebrows there because he is impressed. I mean, it's very much the same as when Harry sees his parents in the Mirror of Erised. Like, this boy right here is capable of feeling sorry for his worst enemy, his parents' murderer. But then it comes up again in King's Cross, which I swear, that's like our most quoted chapter ever. Do not pity the dead, Harry. Pity the living. And above all, those who live without love. And Harry takes that advice and walks right into the next chapter where he offers Voldemort the one thing he could never understand. Remorse, a thing that has been plaguing Voldemort throughout this entire book. Remorse is the reason Harry is able to escape Malfoy Manor earlier in the book, when he's being held prisoner at Voldemort's own headquarters. Pettigrew was reaping his reward for his hesitation, his moment of pity. He was being strangled before their eyes. You see, Wormtail feels one lonely second of remorse for his actions, and then you get to witness how Voldemort really feels about such things. With death. He would literally rather kill those feelings, or anyone feeling those feelings, than just feeling them himself. Remorse is also what starts unraveling his plans and spelling out his downfall long before the final battle, either long before he's ever even resurrected. Like, check this out. Her son lives. He has her eyes, precisely her eyes. You remember the shape and color of Lily Evans' eyes, I am sure. Don't! Gone! Dead! Is this remorse, Severus? I wish I were dead. And what use would that be to anyone, said Dumbledore coldly. If you loved Lily Evans, if you truly loved her, then your way forward is clear. Snape's remorse for his actions and the role he played in Lily's death is so grand, he wishes he could just die to avoid the pain of it, but is instead swayed to the other side, where he spends the rest of his life fighting against Voldemort right under his lack of a nose. The message is clear. Over and over. We all make mistakes. We all have regrets. But if we're brave enough to feel them, we're brave enough to become better. Mistakes are human. Remorse is power. And change is possible. But hey, I hear you saying, that's great and all, but there's more than just emotions going on in this scene, Jay. Remorse has a magical property here to repair your torn soul, and Voldemort has no remaining slices of soul to piece back together, so get back to it. Okay, sorry, you're right, and yet, there is one thing Harry can offer Voldemort via remorse, and it is the number one thing he has failed to accept his whole life, which is not love, which he's also failed to accept, but death. Harry follows up his request for Voldemort to feel remorse with this warning. It's your last chance. It's all you've got left. I've seen what you'll be otherwise. Be a man. Try for some remorse. Now, what Harry is referencing here is that gross, like, barbecue baby Voldemort thing he sees in King's Cross.
Barbecue sauce.
And now a lot of people, very fairly but also inaccurately, interpret this thing on the floor here as the piece of Voldemort's soul that was attached to Harry, like the Horcrux itself. But it's not. What you're seeing in King's Cross is the personification of Harry and Voldemort's actual souls. Like, Harry is of course whole and pure and therefore maintains his entire body and can walk around. He doesn't even need glasses. His vision is better.
Oculus Reparo.
Voldemort, on the other hand, has maimed his soul into oblivion, into a state that is beyond help. His soul is in a constant state of suffering, unable to move and unable to help himself. King's Cross here represents this kind of limbo between the living and the dead, where you're not really either. If Harry wants to, he can board a train and move on, or he can go back to the living. And presumably everyone passes through here, or their own version of there upon their own death. Perhaps this is where some people even decide like they want to become ghosts.
Hello? How are you?
But obviously most people just choose to accept death. Voldemort, however, as you can see, is in no position to make that choice. He cannot move. He cannot function. He can only suffer. That will be the eternal fate of Voldemort if he does not feel remorse. He will instead get eternal pain. So what Harry is offering him with the remorse is to finally accept death, and in doing so, experience a true death, a true afterlife, not one of bloody barbecue limbo baby thing.
Barbecue sauce.
Now, obviously, we know Voldemort does not choose to try and feel remorse, and thus, if you were wondering, he does end up right back here at the end. Because accepting death is positioned as this like super positive thing in the wizarding world and in real life.
Quicker than falling asleep.
And therefore, Voldemort is not granted a true death. He doesn't get the sweet release of death. There is no end to his suffering. But here is where it gets extra fun though, because what if he had done it? What if he had saved himself from this? Would that ruin the prophecy? There would be no big fight and neither would die at the hands of the other? Well, no, there wouldn't be a big fight. But Voldemort's atrocities are so vast, so terrible, so heinous that I think the pain of his remorse would kill him. Hermione says it would be painful, that it could destroy you, and even Snape says he feels so bad he'd rather die. And Voldemort's crimes are much further reaching than his. So, if Voldemort managed remorse in the moment, I think it would have immediately killed him. But since it came from Harry's suggestion, he would still have died at the hands of the other, and Harry would still not be considered a murderer. All comes together pretty good, huh? You guys, thanks so much for watching today's video. Don't forget to leave a like on it if you haven't already, and subscribe so you don't miss any future Harry Potter action from us. If you want to see what if Harry had been sorted into Slytherin, we have a giant playlist over here. One of my favorite things we've ever made on the channel. Go ahead, check that out. But otherwise, Ben, until next time, I'll see you in another life. Well, no, there would not be a big fight, but Voldemort's atrocities. I'm waiting for the jet again.